There comes a time in life when continuing in a circumstance seems like a steady eroding of your spirit, eroding your happiness, your health, and your sense of self. This is a quiet warning that something has to change. It is not a weakness. You could be in a relationship that no longer respects you, at a job that depletes you without providing fulfillment, or mired in a cycle of guilt and duty that makes you feel hollow. We're going into great detail on 9 particular instances today where it's a brave and self-respecting act to walk away. We'll look at how, using the knowledge of Stoic philosophy, making these difficult choices can result in significant personal development and a life in line with your own beliefs. By the time this video ends, you will know more clearly when to let go, how to seize fresh chances, and why sometimes the best and bravest decision you can make is to walk away. Please don't skip any of the videos and press the subscribe button if you enjoy what we're doing here. These observations are ones you really shouldn't miss. Respect is the foundation of any relationship, whether personal or professional. Respect ices something you can sense in every exchange. Perhaps at meetings your partner talks over you, your friends often cross your limits, or your ideas are discounted. Over time, these little, apparently unimportant deeds mount up, lowering your self-esteem and making you feel invisible. Like standing on a flimsy foundation that might give way at any time. The Stoics tell us that our value should not be determined by the views or deeds of others, yet it is clearly difficult to keep this perspective when disrespect is all around you. When there is little respect at work, you may find that your energy and output drop. Sometimes your efforts are ignored, or worse, someone else claims credit for your laborious efforts. This is a message that you are not appreciated in that setting, and it is not only a blow to your professional dignity, personal connections are no different. It's poisonous and not just painful when your friends, family, or lover don't treat you with the respect you deserve. It can cause you to doubt your value and seriously strain your mental health. It is not about giving up when you walk away from such circumstances. It is about taking back your worth and dignity. We are taught by Stoic philosophy to concentrate on our own acts and emotions, which we can control. While you are powerless over how other people treat you, you are free to choose to leave settings that don't value you. That's a declaration that you deserve better, as well as an act of self-preservation. Walking away not only safeguards your mental and emotional health, but also creates a strong example for your next contacts. You are telling the world and yourself that you will not tolerate disrespect. This is not a simple choice to make. It takes a great deal of fortitude and self-awareness, yet doing so makes room in your life for chances and relationships that support and enhance your principles. Envision it. Your time spent in an unrespected environment is time lost from discovering and creating a life where you are regarded. It's about stepping into respectful, positive settings as much as it is about leaving behind negativity. Walking away is a huge first step in one's own development and empowerment. Respect is non-negotiable. Every meaningful contact is built on it. Thus, keep in mind the wisdom of the Stoics when you find yourself in a position where it is missing. Concentrate on your controllables and find guts to turn around. More valuable than continuing to live in a setting that devalues you are your inner tranquility and sense of self. We've all been there, giving it our all in circumstances that seem barely acknowledged, let alone valued. Being taken for granted can be really annoying at work, in a friendship, or in your family. You work endless overtime, go out of your way to assist a friend, or support your loved ones non-stop, only to discover that your efforts are ignored or expected. You may come away from it feeling totally depleted and worn out. When your commitment and hard work are ignored, you know that something has to change. This could show itself at work as constantly putting in more effort without receiving a thank you or any kind of recognition from your supervisor. Soon you find yourself burning out because your contributions are expected rather than appreciated. Focusing on our own merits and deeds instead of looking to other people for approval is what the Stoic method teaches. Still, it's critical to identify whether a setting is consistently unappreciative, as this can cause long-term unhappiness and a loss of self-worth. It can hurt far more in intimate relationships to be taken for granted. Imagine always having to arrange trips, provide assistance, or make sacrifices and having these acts ignored. This disparity might over time, cause emptiness and bitterness. You may begin to question why you are exerting so much when it is not returned or valued. This is about mutual respect and acknowledgement rather than chasing endless praise. One of the strongest acts of self-respect is to leave circumstances where you are taken for granted. It's about realizing your own worth and refusing to settle for less than you deserve, not about being egotistical. The Stoics remind us that our sense of value shouldn't come from other people's approval. You create room for chances and connections that really value and acknowledge your contributions by leaving settings where your efforts are underappreciated. Make this choice carefully. The unknown typically arouses fear. What happens if you go and lose a friend or can't get a better job? But over time, it might be significantly more detrimental to remain somewhere where you are not appreciated. It slowly undermines your happiness and sense of self. Even when it requires making tough decisions, the Stoics would counsel us to live according to our ideals and principles. Keep your personal development and well-being ahead of the ease of familiarity. Imagine focusing your efforts on those who truly appreciate you. This change raises your spirits and brings your life into line with the values of appreciation and respect for others. It's about establishing an equilibrium where your efforts are recognized and returned. Sustaining good connections and a good sense of self are needed to strike this equilibrium. When you walk away from being treated badly, you establish a bar for it's a step toward a more satisfying existence and a declaration of your worth, of your value. You should work somewhere that appreciates and acknowledges your efforts. As the Stoics remind us, you are valuable on your own and shouldn't depend on other people realizing it. Hold fast to this conviction, and don't be reluctant to let go of those who don't value what you have to offer. Your most valuable possession is your health. That's the cornerstone upon which all else in your life is constructed. When circumstances are so detrimental to your bodily or mental health, it is obvious that something has to change. Thinking that stress, anxiety, and physical strain are just a part of life, we frequently push through them. These problems should be taken seriously, though, when they become persistent. Stoic philosophy emphasizes the importance of preserving our inner tranquility and well-being by determining what is under our control and what is not. Take a job that requires more of you than you can properly provide. Stress, long hours, and a poisonous work atmosphere can all cause burnout and even major health issues like high blood pressure or sleeplessness. Both your body and mind can only take so much before they begin to fail. Listen for these warning indicators and act before it's too late. The Stoics stressed the need for moderation and balance, and going beyond your comfort zone is obviously against these ideas. Just as much as at risk in personal interactions, it's critical to identify the damage being done if ongoing conflict, neglect, or emotional abuse is negatively impacting your mental health. Continuing in a poisonous relationship can lead to anxiety, melancholy, and a sense of being stuck. The Stoics advise us to cherish our inner peace and stay away from people who upset it. Leaving a toxic relationship is a brave move toward preserving your mental health and regaining your tranquility, not a sign of failing. Equally vital is physical wellness. Maybe what you do for a living or as a hobby is physically damaging to you. Perhaps it's a sport your body can no longer play, or habits that are progressively wearing you down. Ignoring the physical toll that these pursuits take can have long-term effects. As part of our innate existence, taking care of our physical bodies is a Stoic principle of living in harmony with nature. Our bodies are telling us things, and we have to listen to them. It is wise and self-respecting to leave circumstances that are bad for your health. It's realizing that your health should always come first. In selecting choices that support a balanced and healthy life, the Stoics stress the need for wisdom. This wisdom involves knowing when to let go of things that don't benefit you anymore and putting your health before other demands or commitments. If you gave your physical and emotional health first priority, just think of how your life may be. Growing and healing are possible when one leaves poisonous surroundings. You give yourself room to mend and reassemble. This could include settling into a career that honors your work-life balance, cultivating relationships that inspire you, or leading a healthy lifestyle. Keeping oneself mentally and physically well is closely related to the Stoic quest for a moral and happy life. Nobody should jeopardize their health. It's the foundation of your capacity for a rich and fulfilling existence. You are choosing to respect and defend yourself when you decide when a situation is toxic and muster the strength to leave. The capacity to preserve inner tranquility and harmony is what the Stoics remind us of as true strength. Thus, give your health first priority, take the required action, and never forget that turning away from things that hurt you is a potent act of wisdom and self-care. Your values are the fundamental ideas that guide your judgments, deeds, and overall course in life. They define you, and so are your ideals. Situations that make you compromise these principles cause a deep inner conflict that can be rather upsetting. Living against your principles on the job, in your personal relationships, or in any other aspect of your life might cause you to feel very uncomfortable and unhappy. Living in line with your values and ideals is very important to the Stoics, who hold that real happiness results from coordinating your deeds with your inner convictions. Take into account a career that calls on you to violate your moral convictions or behave unethically. You sense a bit of integrity eroding every time you put your principles aside for the benefit of the work. This is all about losing identity, not simply discomfort. Stoic thinkers like Seneca and Marcus Aurelius held that leading a happy and purposeful life required upholding one's morality and integrity. It is obvious when your job goes against these principles that it may be time to quit. Just as harmful in personal relationships is surrendering your principles. Maybe you're in a relationship where you feel under pressure to act against your values, or you're surrounded by people whose attitudes and deeds go against your values. This contradiction might gradually damage your identity and cause continual inner conflict. The individuals we spend our time with can have a big impact on our character and general well-being. Hence, the Stoics advise us to pick our friends carefully. Your integrity may need to be preserved by re-evaluating and perhaps walking away if your values are routinely violated in your relationships. Resolving to leave circumstances that go against your principles is a sign of strength and self-respect, not weakness. It demonstrates your commitment to living really and your preference for your values above practicality or approval from others. The Stoic philosophy exhorts us to follow our actual nature and to stick to our moral principles in the face of outside pressure. We work to develop an alignment and inner calm that are essential to our general health. Imagine the empowerment and freedom that result from leading a life totally consistent with your principles. Making choices based on your values lays a solid foundation for confidence and self-respect. You develop into someone that people can rely on and trust, not because you always do what's convenient, but rather because you always act morally. For the Stoics, genuine happiness and contentment are found in this kind of purity. Realize that even seemingly small compromises to your principles can add up over time. You can eventually go further from yourself if you continue to act against your values, since it gets easier to do so each time. You are expressing a lot about who you are and what you believe in when you stand up and leave circumstances that ask you to sacrifice your principles. This brave and honest deed can encourage others to follow suit, therefore bringing about a beneficial chain reaction. We start to feel unfulfilled and static when we stop growing. It's comparable to being mired in a rut when each day seems to be the same as the one before it. Whether in your personal life, work, or interests, reaching a standstill where you're not learning or developing may be rather annoying. The Stoics saw life as an ongoing process of self-improvement and knowledge pursuit as a lifelong quest. You know something has to change when you're not progressing anymore. Think of your work. It may have been an interesting and demanding profession with plenty of opportunities to grow and learn new skills. Now, though, you seem to be going through the motions. Nothing exciting, nothing fresh to overcome, nothing opportunity for growth. A profound sense of unhappiness and boredom can result from this lack of development. The Stoics instill in us the need to pursue perfection in all we do and to look for chances to advance. Should these chances not be offered by your present employment, it may be time to look into other options that rekindle your enthusiasm and curiosity. The absence of development might also be a serious problem in your own life. Relationships, for example, should be dynamic and changing so that both parties can develop and improve upon who they are. It could be time for a review if you discover that your relationships are unchanging and your exchanges seem monotonous and uninspired. Regarding your own pastimes and interests, the same thing. A pastime that used to excite and delight you should feel routine and boring if it is time to look for other opportunities for development. The Stoics would always look for events that would push and motivate you, since they valued the quest for knowledge and personal growth. Leaving circumstances where you're not learning or developing anymore is a wise and self-careful move. It has to do with realizing your potential and standing up for what you deserve. The Stoics hold that we should make the most of our little time on earth by always trying to improve both ourselves and our perception of the world. This idea is honored, and most of your life is maximized when you look for fresh chances and challenges. Imagine the thrill and contentment that result from always learning and developing. One opens up a world of opportunities when they push themselves and go outside of their comfort zone. You acquire new abilities and viewpoints, as well as becoming stronger and more flexible. This ongoing development improves your life both personally and professionally, as well as raising your overall level of happiness and well-being. Living in line with your nature, which includes the desire to learn and develop, is what the Stoics consider to be true fulfillment. Realizing that growth frequently necessitates letting go of the comfortable and familiar is critical. Though intimidating, this is an essential step in realizing your greatest potential. The Stoics believed that personal growth required both challenge and discomfort. Resilience and strength are developed when you welcome change and look for fresh experiences. This readiness to develop and learn is evidence of your dedication to leading a happy and meaningful life. Staying in a position solely out of responsibility or guilt can be exhausting and unsatisfactory. That's not unusual. Because we feel bad about quitting or think it's our responsibility to stay, we frequently feel forced to stay in relationships, employment, or responsibilities. It's time to reevaluate your circumstances, though, if your main motivation for remaining is guilt or duty. The Stoics advise us to live in line with our actual selves and behave with sincere intention rather than under dubious circumstances or guilt. Consider a job in which you feel pressured to stick around because you worry about people's opinions or because you don't want to disappoint your co-workers. Maybe the work no longer fulfills you or fits with your professional objectives, yet you feel guilty about leaving. You could worry about disappointing your boss or about the additional work your departure would put on your team. Resentment and burnout, however, can result from continuing in a position that no longer fulfills you because of a sense of obligation. The Stoic philosophy emphasizes the importance of realizing that you are in charge of your own decisions and not others' views or expectations, and that you must match your deeds with your inner principles. Even more powerful might be guilt and duty in intimate relationships. Because you've been in a friendship or love connection for a while, or because you feel accountable for the other person's pleasure, you might stick with them. You may believe you owe them to stay, or you may fear that leaving will harm them. It is not equitable to either side, though, to remain out of obligation if the relationship is no longer healthy or enjoyable for you. The Stoics remind us that sincere connections are based on free will and mutual respect rather than on obligation or guilt. Acting honestly and with integrity is crucial, both for oneself and for other people. When your main motivation is obligation or guilt, leaving circumstances is an act of honesty and self-respect. It's about realizing that you are worth time and energy, which you should use in ways that make sense and satisfy you. The Stoics advise us to let go of what we are powerless over, such as the responses of others, and concentrate on what we can control, such as our own deeds. When you put your personal well-being first and base your decisions on your own wants and values, you live according to Stoic ideals. See the empowerment and freedom that result from choosing what is right for you. You make room in your life for chances and connections that truly speak to you when you release shame and responsibility. This change can lead to more personal development, fulfillment, and enjoyment. The Stoics hold that rather than succumbing to outside influences, leading a moral life means choosing actions that are consistent with your basic principles and pursuing what is really important to you. It is critical to recognize that leaving a situation out of obligation or guilt may be difficult. Though uncomfortable at first and requiring tough talks, in the end, it's a step toward a more real and satisfying life. The Stoics would counsel you to go into this process with bravery and wisdom, knowing that living in accordance with your inner values leads to real happiness. You develop integrity and inner tranquility by choosing things that respect who you really are. Every deep relationship starts with trust. Trust is the foundation of all relationships, whether they be romantic, professional, or friendship-based. You can feel as though the ground has been torn out from beneath you when trust is seriously violated. This rupture, which can take many different forms, betrayal, dishonesty, or deceit, often causes profound emotional wounds. The Stoics teach us that character is formed by our deeds and the trust we establish with others. Hence, they stress the value of honesty and integrity. A connection has fundamentally changed when trust is lost. Imagine learning that your partner has been unfaithful or that a close friend has been spreading untrue tales about you. These betrayals of confidence change the nature of the relationship in ways that go beyond simple hurt. It gets harder, if not impossible, to keep interacting with the same degree of vulnerability and candor. The Stoics would counsel us to approach such circumstances wisely and clearly. Marcus Aurelius, for example, advised us to act to preserve our inner tranquility and integrity while nevertheless accepting the facts of the world and the deeds of others. A major betrayal of trust in the workplace could be a co-worker claiming credit for your work or a superior breaking commitments. These behaviors can damage your self-esteem and create a poisonous workplace. Keeping motivated and involved is difficult when you can no longer trust the people you work with. The Stoics remind us that whatever other people do, we should behave honorably and morally. It may be time to think about leaving if trust is betrayed in a way that jeopardizes your capacity to carry out your work morally and successfully. It is not about avoiding problems by leaving a relationship or circumstance where trust has been gravely violated. It has to do with defending your mental and emotional health. It has to do with realizing that trust is very hard to regain after it has been damaged. We are taught by the Stoic philosophy to recognize that we cannot influence others and to concentrate on what we can control, our own deeds and reactions. By opting to leave, you are choosing to value your own integrity and mental health. Think about the consequences of continuing to be in a circumstance where trust has been violated over time, your ongoing uncertainty and worry. It can be draining and crippling to find yourself doubting the other person's intentions and deeds all of the time. Above all, the Stoics would advise you to treasure your inner peace. Another well-known Stoic philosopher, Seneca, urged us not to give up our mental tranquility in order to stay in a relationship that is no longer beneficial to us. Imagine the empowerment and relief that follow, leaving a setting where trust has been betrayed. Walking away creates the opportunity for fresh, healthier connections based on trust and respect to develop. You also convey to yourself and other people strong messages about your value and the expectations you have of yourself in your relationships. The Stoics held that part of leading a life of virtue and sincerity is to surround oneself with those who share those ideals. It's crucial to admit that it might be really difficult to move on after a betrayal of confidence. It can entail trying talks and the end of a relationship that was very important to you. Never forget, though, that your honesty and general well-being come first. The Stoics encourage us to confront such obstacles with bravery and knowledge, realizing that occasionally the most moral route is also the hardest one. One of the most confusing and agonizing events in your life may be losing yourself. As you put the wants and aspirations of others ahead of your own, it frequently happens gradually over time. Someday you may wake up and discover that the person in the mirror no longer looks like you. Relationships, jobs, and social circles are just a few of the areas in life where this loss of self could happen, and it leaves you feeling empty and cut off. Living according to one's actual nature and knowing oneself are crucial, according to the Stoics. One indication that something basic has to change is when you lose sight of who you are. Imagine a relationship in which you've continuously given up on your own goals and principles in order to maintain harmony or win over your partner. You could discover over time that in the course of molding yourself to meet someone else's expectations, you have forgotten who you are. As a result, there may be a deep sense of loss and bewilderment. The Stoics instill in us the need to appreciate and live genuinely who we are. Marcus Aurelius advises us to follow our own beliefs and nature rather than letting other people's expectations control our lives. In your work, losing yourself can occur when you become so preoccupied with moving up the corporate ladder or fulfilling outside standards of success that you forget why you started in the first place. Perhaps you get into a position that seems ideal on paper but makes you feel unsatisfied and cut off from your passions. The Stoics would counsel you to consider what is important to you in life and make sure that your job reflects your interests and ideals. Seeking out jobs and settings that let you be who you really are and make meaningful contributions is crucial. Friendships and social networks can likewise lead to this identity loss. It's easy to begin adjusting to fit in if you're surrounded by individuals whose beliefs and way of life don't speak to you. This might gradually undermine your sense of self. The Stoics stressed the importance of making sure your connections represent who you really are and carefully selecting your friends. Seneca advised us to seek friendships based on mutual respect and common principles because they support our personal development. Resolving to leave circumstances where you've lost yourself takes bravery and self-discovery. It's about living according to your actual nature and taking back your individuality. We are taught by Stoic philosophy to concentrate on our choices for living, our acts and decisions, and what we can control. Moving out of settings that stifle your actual self makes room for development and introspection. You can re-establish a connection with your joys, values, and passions on this rediscovering path. Consider the fulfillment and freedom that come from living honestly. Liberation is what happens when you accept who you really are and let go of the need to fit in. Opportunities and connections that fit who you really are begin to come your way. Being genuine benefits people around you, as well as improving your personal well-being. The Stoics hold that a moral and happy existence depends on living in line with your actual nature. Regaining oneself can be a difficult process, and that must be acknowledged. Decisions that are tough to make and leave behind comfortable people or circumstances could be involved. That is a necessary first step, though, in leading a life that really honors your interests and values. Knowing that true happiness comes from living in harmony with your inner self, the Stoics would advise you to embrace this journey with bravery and self-compassion. It can be quite depressing to reach the point where you've done everything in your power and yet nothing is changing for the better. It's that tired point when, despite all you do, things obstinately stay the same. Relationships, jobs, and personal pursuits are just a few of the areas in life where this emotion can surface. We are taught to accept what we cannot change and concentrate on what we can. If, after all you've done, the result hasn't changed, it may be time to accept that this is a signal that it's time to move on, rather than a reflection of your value or work. Think of a relationship in which you have made every effort to repair, communicate, and make things work. Though you've worked hard to settle disagreements and been patient and sympathetic, the relationship is nonetheless toxic or unsatisfactory. Both cognitively and emotionally, this could be rather exhausting. The Stoics remind us that we bear responsibility for our own actions and intentions, not for the actions or reactions of others. If you put in the work and it's not appreciated or returned, you can be sure that staying will just make matters worse. There may be a job function or project in your professional life to which you have given a lot of time and effort. Despite all of your hard work, overtime, and new strategy implementation, nothing seems to be improving, and the outcomes fall short of your expectations. Eventually, this might cause irritation and burnout. The Stoic course would be to evaluate the matter impartially and acknowledge that, although your efforts were admirable, the circumstances might not have been under your control. To safeguard your health and career advancement, you must know when to change course, look for other chances, or even quit completely. Personal initiatives and ambitions can also run into a wall where it seems impossible to make any headway despite all of your effort and commitment. This could be a creative project, a fitness objective, or anything else entirely. It's easy to become mired in a cycle of self-blame and hopelessness when you've tried everything and are nonetheless stuck. The Stoics would counsel you to consider your lessons from the process, value your work, and recognize that not every project is designed to be successful. Sometimes insight comes from knowing when to let go and focus your attention on more productive activities. Doing everything you can and then walking away is not a sign of failure. It's sage and self-respectful behavior. It has to do with realizing how much you can affect things and accepting the results that are beyond your control. The Stoics stressed the need to let go of what is not important and concentrate on what is. Moving out of circumstances that no longer benefit you makes room for fresh chances and experiences that more closely match your beliefs and objectives. Consider the release and relief that come from realizing you've taken all reasonable steps. Giving up breaks the cycle of disappointment and annoyance. Moving forward creates opportunities for development, education, and fresh starts. The Stoics impart to us the idea that life is a succession of chances for development, and that sometimes that progress requires understanding when to yield. It is imperative that one approach this choice with knowledge and self-compassion. When you walk away, there is no less value in your work or in what you have attempted to accomplish. Rather, it emphasizes your tenacity and dedication to leading real, meaningful lives. The Stoics would counsel you to see this as a step along the way toward other avenues that might lead to more success and fulfillment. Knowing when to turn around in life is a huge act of bravery and self-respect. It is about giving your progress, integrity, and tranquility first priority. Recall that every action you take toward living genuinely makes your life more important and satisfying. If you find this video useful, I cordially urge you to watch one of the recommended videos on the screen for further knowledge and wisdom. We appreciate you taking part in Stoicism Insights. Continue to be yourself and aim high.